Good morning. It's spring 2026 and I'm about to join Mont, which is one of the great fleet of little ships that saved the British Army on the beaches of Dunkirk in 1940, when the Germans had pushed us to the end of the world and all seemed lost. Churchill organised a fleet of little vessels like this that were quite shallow draft and could get in close to the beach so that the soldiers could jump on board and be ferried out to bigger vessels which would take them back to Britain. Some French soldiers were saved as well, and one way and another the whole army was brought back to Britain, what remained of it, and that enabled us to carry on with the war. And today we all speak English and we're free. So these vessels are of huge historic significance. But that's actually not what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm talking about Angel Nav, which is an electronic navigation system which doesn't rely on GPS. It uses GPS when GPS is available, and when it's not available, it has other means of carrying on. And that's really important, the way the world's going, because with the global situation being what it is, GPS is becoming unreliable in various parts of the world, and the parts of the world where we can't rely on it are getting bigger and bigger. The Middle East is a no-no now. It's not good in the Baltic. Aircraft have been having a problem for quite a while and it's spreading onto the sea. So we need to have alternative means that are reliable, that are modern and up to date, and that is what we're going to be talking about now. We have Angel Nav, developed by Bill and me, 4 sailors all over the world. So I'm going to show you how it works, and I'll see if there's anybody on board to help me. Well, glad you're here, chaps. Howard, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Howard's the owner of the ship, as you well know, Bill,
Howdy,
and here's
Tom.
Bill. How have you been?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good breakfast?
Very good.
Excellent.
Ready for the trip?
I am, and I'm ducking my head. Proper job this, isn't it? Right, okay, let's get cracking. While the boys are getting the boat ready, I'm just going to talk for a little while about the sort of charts that we use on Angel Nav. There are 2 sorts of chart which are generally in use in navigation plotters. The first sort, which appears in just about every commercial plotter that you'll find, is a vector chart. This is information taken and chart generated from an algorithm which drags in the data and does what it does. It's not a cartographer, it simply gives you the information. It also doesn't give you a lot of information about what's on the shore. Perhaps a church steeple just won't appear. All sorts of stuff is not there anymore. This doesn't matter so long as GPS is giving you a solid position, because you don't have to take bearings on all these things to see where you are. But if there's no GPS, you're a little bit sold short with a vector chart. The raster chart, on the other hand, is a rather different animal. A raster chart is developed by cartographers in the same way that a paper chart is developed. These guys know what you need to know. They don't work on an infinite zooming system so that you can just go in and out and press the button and you can have more or less detail, and more detail appears as you zoom in, as with a vector chart. A raster chart, what you see is what you get, just as it is with a paper chart. So if you need more detail than what the chart is giving you, you effectively bring up another chart which has more detail. So if we have an English Channel chart out here, it won't give us any detail at all for where we are now. We need the Chichester Harbour chart, and that's the one we pull up, and it's got everything that is available. So there's nothing that's going to come up on a vector chart that's not going to be on the raster chart at the right scale. But the raster chart shows you the whole of the shore as well. It shows you what's going on. You don't have to interrogate the buoys to see what sort of buoy it is or how often it flashes. It's all there, just as it is on a paper chart. So actually, a raster chart in many ways is easier to use than a vector chart. It's just that it is what it is, and it doesn't zoom in and out and pan infinitely, because if you pan too far to one side, you'll go off the end of the chart. Well, bring up another one. Why not? Why wouldn't you? It's just like having a pile of charts in your chart table, and it's got every chart you could ever want, and you pull up the one you want when you want it. So that's how raster charts work. This becomes very important if GPS is unavailable. Or if you just want to brush up your navigation for the day when perhaps you haven't got GPS. Right, so where do we get our charts from for Angel Nav? Well, we get most of them from UKHO data. So that's the best we can get. And that's Home Waters chart for Brits. If you want to go to France, you can use SHOM charts. We get those too. And that's SHOM, SHOM. SHOM charts are brilliant. And they cover the whole of the English Channel and the whole of continental France. They do a lot more besides, and so do the Admiralty. Further to that, if you don't happen to be in the areas that we cover, if you're in areas covered by NOAA, N-O-A-A, the American Charting Authority, you can download their charts on demand as well, which is absolutely brilliant because there's an awful lot of Americans like to navigate properly, don't want to capitulate to a box. We can use Antares charts for detail in Scotland. In fact, sometimes I think there's no end to it. There probably is at the moment, but we're expanding all the time. We can use IMRE charts to go down to the Mediterranean. That's all set up. Goodness me, where does it end? I don't know, but I'm going to stop now because we've got lots more to talk about. But you'll gather that charts is no problem. Well, we're leaving the dock now. There's a stiff breeze blowing on shore and we've got a big tide running. The tide is spring, and as you can see, it's running very past the post here. When we get to the entrance, with the onshore wind, if the tide is running against it, I think it's going to get pretty interesting. So we may well have to abort the mission, but with a bit of luck, we'll get out and be able to take at least a fix. But let's see how we get on. Well, we're down at the bar now, and as you can see, things are far from amusing. So we don't like the look of this one bit. We're going to just stick our nose out and then get back in before that tide really starts ebbing hard. In 10 minutes we'll be outside and we'll be able to take a fix. So we'll crack on from there. Well, we're out clear of the bar at Chichester and I've just been out taking some bearings. Howard's left his hand-bearing compass at home and I didn't bring mine, so I've been using my mobile phone to take the bearings. It's surprising how good the thing is. Anyway, that's what we've got, and we've got 3 bearings to plot, so here we go. This is what we do. First of all, we double tap on our raster chart and we say add chart work. Then we go to position line and I tap where it says position line, and that gives me this chap again. I'm going to put one end on Chichester bar beacon, there it is, and the other end on my bearing, which was 043 degrees, 044 degrees true. So there's my first position line. The second position line, I'm just going to have to move the chart a little way, and there we are. I can see there's a little fort in the entrance to the next harbour down, which is Langston. So we're going to do the same again. Double tap, add chart work, position line. There she goes, and this one is going to cross there. So we can leave that and they will end up as 2 nice little position lines. And for a third line, I was able to get a position on one of the forts at the entrance to Portsmouth Harbour. And here's my position line. And that is our 3-point fix. Now we can do a little bit neater than that for our chart. And what we're going to do is double tap. We're going to add chart work. And we go add fix this time. We'll press fix, and here's our fix. We'll pop him in the middle of the cocked hat, and there he is. We can edit the time because it's a little while since I took the bearings, probably 5 minutes, so we'll call it 11:41 instead. And there we have it. That's our fix, duly plotted and ready to rock and roll. If we want to really tidy up, we can get rid of these. So that's our fix that we can put in the logbook. While we're on the chart out here, I'm just going to show you some of the benefits of the raster chart, which you don't get with a vector chart. Look at all these notes. This is just like a paper chart. These useful notes that tell you where you really don't want to be, where the submarine cables are, high-speed craft, all manner of useful things. Well, we've taken our fix. And none of us likes the look of that bar one bit once the tide starts really going. So we're hightailing it for home, and as we go, I'm going to walk you through 1 or 2 of the features that make Angel Nav Such a fantastic addition to safety in navigation. The tidal information on AngelNav is great because it tells you what sort of time you're in. It'll tell you whether you're in UT, British Summer Time, Eastern Standard Time, whatever it is you're working with, it's there and you can see what you're talking about. Now, let's see how it works. Here are the tides. To reach them, simply press this little button on the top right-hand corner of the screen with the 3 dots on it. And at the bottom of the menu list there is Show Tides. Give that a tap and up they come. There's an icon over cows there, so we press that and there is the tidal curve for cows. As per the Admiralty, this is the gospel truth. This is what you want to know. And if you need to know different time, just move it along and it tells you what's happening and when it's happening. To change day, use the blue buttons at the top. It couldn't be simpler really, and it's super accurate information, and of course it tells you exactly what time zone you're in. Once the tides are in place, it's very easy to plot a course to steer in the way that we used to when we were plotting on paper charts, and which we may well want to do again. So here's all you do: double tap on the screen, and chart work, course to steer, and we get our little handles again. Let's say we want to plot a course from this fix to the Needles. There we go. We just tap on the tide line now, and that will give us the tide, and we're going to say the tide's doing about 1.8 knots. There it is. We move this one up and down the tide line to coincide with the speed of the yacht. So if we're doing 7 knots, there's the course, 359 degrees true. Simple as that. Measuring range and bearing and generally keeping things in perspective is done using the chart interrogator. If I want to know how far it is quickly at a glance to the harbour entrance and I don't have a waypoint, I simply tap in the harbour entrance and up it comes, and it's telling me it's 2.7 miles on 073 true. If I want to know how far it is from my ship, and there I am, to perhaps that buoy out there, for example, I simply grab both parts of it and move them to where I want to go. If I'm on the ship and I want to know how far it is to the spire in Calais, I have another look. You can move both these things around to suit yourself. That's the chart inspector, all sorts of information, and very, very useful as an instant information source. When you want rid of it, you simply tap on the little road sign, the little red road sign with a negative in it, and off it goes. Waypoints and routes present no problem at all. Here's a boat with its projected track in front of him going to a waypoint, and laying a snail trail behind the boat is always available anytime you want at the click of a button. What really excites me is the prospect of satellite charts, and here's how they work. As a traditional navigator, I was always a bit cynical about satellite charts. They can't be any good, can they? There's no soundings on them. It's just a photograph taken from up above. But it is useful. I'm astonished how handy they are. You can take a shot anywhere on the planet with Angel Nav and zoom it to any scale you want. And the amount of detail that those cameras vertically over us seem to see through the water is quite remarkable. And the charts on Angel Nav are geo-referenced, so that your boat sails across the chart on GPS just as it would as if it were an Admiralty chart or any other sort of chart. Let's take a look at a satellite chart for the River Exe in the southwest of England. Here it is. It's just so easy to make on Angel Nav. And look at the detail it gives us. It's astonishing. It's a work of art, isn't it? But it's remarkable what we can see on there that we're not really seeing on the paper or the raster charts. Imagine that in the Pacific on an island that's not properly charted. It's a basic navigational proposition that you never accept information from a single source. Everything must be corroborated. The thing about GPS is it's a single source. And it's been so good up until fairly recently that we can just rely on that and we just accept it. But it's actually not good practice. And now that global conditions are making GPS less reliable and in places downright unreliable, it's becoming not good practice, to be honest. It's good to be able to cross-check everything. Now, how do you know when your GPS is not delivering the goods? It's not easy. But with Angel Nav, it is. We've got that worked out, and here's how it works. So here we are, sailing down the Percule River in the West Country of England. If you look at the top of the screen, you'll see that there's a little green light flashing next to the question mark. That is the GPS light, and that tells us that the GPS is up and running, and every little green flash tells us it's getting a fix. Now then, if we want to have a better look at GPS, we can tap on that, and look what happens. We get a whole little box that gives us chapter and verse on what's really going on. It's looking at 12 satellites. It's got an HDOP, that's horizontal dilution of position, which to you and me means how accurate is it, of 0.8 meters. And it's working on differential GPS. So long as that little pointer is in the green, you're fine. If it goes into the red, you've got to start wondering. Now, what about if the GPS is jammed? Well, what's going to happen first is that the little green light will go out, and then something's going to happen to the boat. There we are. The boat's gone pale blue, and the little green light's gone out. That means the GPS is being jammed. Right, we've got our blue boat back and we're on our way. Now, what's going to happen if we get GPS spoofed? GPS spoofing, remember, is where the boat appears to be where it's not. But there she blows. Suddenly, the boat isn't where it was, and it's got a warning ring round it, which we can't miss. And if you see that, there's no doubt at all that you can't rely on it. So, as we head for home in our brave little ship, we can reflect on the fact that the satellites on which we have come to rely for so long are no longer quite as solid as we once thought they were. The responsible navigator today needs to be able to corroborate the position that GPS is giving him, and he needs to be able to manage without it if the satellites are totally compromised. If that's our philosophy, then we can move ahead with confidence, and like the man on the front of the old Air Almanac say, man is not lost.